February 28, 1997. It began like any typical morning in North Hollywood, until it wasn't. Just after 9 a.m., something unfolded that would be broadcast live into millions of homes, changing the way America viewed policing forever. News helicopters swarmed overhead. Below them, two men in heavy body armor fired automatic rifles in broad daylight. LAPD officers had arrived, but they weren't ready for what they were about to face. This wasn't just another bank robbery. It was a full-blown war zone. Blood brothers of the bank job era. Some men are born into chaos. Larry Phillips Jr. didn't just fall into crime, he inherited it. His grandfather made a living robbing trains, and his father looted graves. By the time Larry came of age, it was almost like crime ran through his bloodline. But he didn't jump straight into robbing banks. He tried other paths first, paths that didn't quite stick. For a while, Larry tried to reinvent himself at Gold's Gym in Pasadena, working on bodybuilding. Maybe he thought muscle would bring him power or respect, but that didn't take. Next, he dabbled in real estate. That too unraveled, mostly because he scammed clients through shady property deals. Nothing legit seemed to last, and so he made a decision. If honest money didn't come fast enough, maybe it was time to take it by force. It was at that very gym where he likely crossed paths with the man who would change everything. Emil Matasareanu. Emil was different but equally volatile. A Romanian immigrant with a complicated, painful past. He was born with a severe heart condition and spent his early years overweight and ostracized. He was bullied, laughed at, underestimated. But somewhere along the way, he took back control. Emil shed the weight, found confidence, and, more importantly, found a passion for firearms and tactics. He dove into the world of weapons, strategy, and precision with near-obsessive focus. Together, these two misfits became more than just friends. They became a weaponized force. Their bond wasn't just built on shared frustration or isolation. It was built on planning, preparation, and a willingness to kill. They weren't smashing and grabbing. They were preparing for war. It was the early 1990s in Los Angeles, and bank robberies were happening at a staggering pace. At its worst, one every 45 minutes. But quantity didn't mean quality. Most robbers weren't exactly masterminds. They walked in with notes or handguns and walked out with maybe a few $1,000s. It was more desperation than design. That era wouldn't last. The banks started to fight back, adding armed guards, upgrading surveillance systems, fitting vaults with time locks, and handing out exploding die packs. At the same time, the justice system cracked down hard. New federal laws upped the minimum sentence for armed robbery to 25 years. No parole, no second chances. That scared off the small-timers. The amateurs faded out. What it left behind was a space for a new breed of robber, calculated, methodical, and willing to take it all the way. This was the environment that bred men like Larry Phillips Jr. and Emil Matasareanu. Where others saw risk, they saw opportunity. And while most robbers carried pistols, they brought in assault rifles. Where others made quick getaways, they plotted routes, timed police response, and packed homemade body armor. They didn't just want money. They wanted to dominate, to overwhelm, and to leave no room for resistance. And soon, the whole city and the world would know their names. From small heists to military-grade attacks, they started small, hitting convenience stores and cash couriers, but it escalated quickly. In 1993, they pulled off a successful armored truck ambush, but months later, they were caught in a routine traffic stop, carrying rifles, handguns, thousands of rounds, explosives, and full body armor. That should have been the end. Instead, it was just the beginning. Despite becoming felons and losing their legal right to own firearms, they doubled down. By 1995, they were killing guards to steal cash. By 1996, they had mastered military-style robberies, walking into banks with overwhelming firepower and walking out with hundreds of thousands of dollars. Target, Bank of America. In 1997, they picked their biggest score yet, the Bank of America on Laurel Canyon Boulevard. It was the largest branch in North Hollywood, and more importantly, it had ideal escape routes. They were ready. They armed themselves with multiple automatic rifles. They wore heavy armor, enough to stop nearly everything a police officer's sidearm could dish out. The LAPD at that time, mostly equipped with 9mm pistols and shotguns. Against Larry and Emil's weapons, those might as well have been water guns. The heist begins. At 9:16 a.m., they walked into the bank high on a nerve-calming medication. They gave themselves 8 minutes to get in and out, but things fell apart fast. Instead of a single big vault, the bank had smaller cash compartments, each with its own key. And worse, the big cash delivery they were counting on had already been delayed. They grabbed what they could, just over $300,000, but unknowingly also picked up 3 die packs. Meanwhile, outside the bank, the LAPD was setting up in full force. Officers had already taken positions. The trap was tightening. The firefight erupts. Larry stepped outside first. He saw the cops. He opened fire. The first few shots shattered the silence, and then all hell broke loose. Officers tried to shoot back, but their bullets barely touched him. His armor soaked it all up. Meanwhile, Larry's AK tore through cars, concrete, and everything in between. Then Emil joined him, and together they unloaded hundreds of rounds into the street. Civilians were caught in the chaos. Some officers were wounded. Still, the robbers held their ground until the die packs exploded. The getaway that wasn't Emil was injured above the eye. The cash was ruined. Larry left the money behind. They tried to escape in their car. Larry made it behind a semi-truck, wounded and exhausted. His rifle jammed. He switched to another. When he finally pulled out his pistol for one last effort, police returned fire and hit him in the hand. He dropped the gun. That was it. Larry Phillips Jr. was down. Emil's desperate escape. Emil kept driving, trying to hijack cars. One driver sped off. Another left a pickup truck with the keys removed. Emil jumped in, tried to hotwire it, but it didn't work. Then the SWAT team arrived. A gunfight erupted again. Emil took multiple hits to the legs but kept returning fire until one officer spotted an opening beneath the cars, got down, and fired a clean shot to his calf. Then another, and another. Finally, Emil dropped his gun and surrendered. But the officers didn't realize it right away and kept firing. When the dust cleared, Emil was badly wounded and bleeding fast. The aftermath and the 56-minute wait officers were unsure if Emil was carrying a bomb, so they waited. Medical personnel were told to stay back. And so Emil, full of barbiturates, bleeding from nearly 30 wounds, laid there for 56 minutes and died in the middle of the road. No third gunman was ever found, despite earlier suspicions. At 11:30 p.m., the area was cleared. The North Hollywood shootout was officially over. A turning point for American policing. Over 2,000 rounds were fired in just 44 minutes. Hundreds of officers responded. 20 people were wounded, including 12 cops. And yet only 2 lives were lost, Larry and Emil. But their firepower and armor exposed a terrifying truth. American police were totally outgunned. In fact, early on in the battle, LAPD officers had to borrow rifles from a nearby gun store just to keep up. That moment was a wake-up call. How policing changed forever. After North Hollywood, everything changed. Departments across the country upgraded their weapons. AR-15s became standard issue. Ammunition was improved. Armor was upgraded. Helmets, trauma plates, and specialized training all became common. This wasn't the start of police militarization, but it was the spark that accelerated it. Today, patrol officers are far better equipped to deal with threats like this. The lessons of North Hollywood were painful, but they were clear. Never again would law enforcement be that outgunned in their own city. The North Hollywood shootout wasn't just a failed bank robbery. It was a 44-minute turning point that redefined how America thought about policing, criminal tactics, and public safety. Let's hope we never see anything like it again. But if we do, at least now, we're ready. Thanks for watching. Please like the video, press the subscribe button, and also drop your thoughts in the comments section.